live on Facebook. All right. So, welcome everyone to the second session of the Climate Resource Management and Human Development Community Resilience Initiatives in Asia webinar series. Our session today is broadcasted live on the Facebook page of the Coastal Cities at Risk in the Philippines as seen on your screens. Please be guided by the house rules for today's session. All attendees and participants must mute themselves and turn off their videos upon entry. The ceremony will be recorded for documentation purposes. For our distinguished speakers, please keep your video off and your microphone muted if it's not your turn to speak. For our speakers also, you will be hearing my voice when you only have 3 minutes left, and again for 1 minute. For attendees, please send your questions through the chat box at the bottom of your screen so our team can note this and raise it during our open forum. We begin this webinar with opening remarks from our main convener, Dr. Emma Porio, who is also a professor at the Ateneo de Manila Department of Sociology and Anthropology and the project leader and principal investigator of the CCARPH project. I now welcome Dr. Emma Porio.
Thank you, Ina. Welcome to the second session of the Climate, Resource Management, and Human Development lecture series focused on community resilience initiatives in Asia 2020. Climate and disaster impacts pose the greatest challenge of our time. With COVID-19, the climate and disaster impacts to the vulnerable ecosystems and livelihoods of the poor, and also it also affected very much the well-being of the already marginalized communities and suffering already from the many services deficit. The climate and disaster hazards have complicated and cascaded their impacts to the already socially, politically, economically marginalized groups. So we are organizing this conference or this lecture series for that matter because we have COVID. We planned this for our students in Asian Peacebuilders program we expose them to the communities and the like. But as I said, COVID had other plans, so we have to design ourselves. We have to reconfigure ourselves. So we organized this lecture series so that our students and our audience can basically show what are the resilience initiatives under COVID and under conditions wherein the ecosystems environment are vulnerable. So without much ado, I will basically say in behalf of the Coastal Cities at Risk project holder and President Roberto C. Yap, let me thank our panels of speakers for really sharing their vast experience and intellectual generosity and wisdom for us to have a very dynamic discussion about resource management strategies in Asia, how they have been reconfigured by climate and disaster risk, and what are the responses, the initiatives, the innovations of the people in the communities to respond to this challenge of our time. So let me also thank our partners in organizing this conference, the Department of Political Science and the Asian Peacebuilders program that they are administering, the Department of Sociology and Anthropology with my colleagues there, the sociological and anthropological colleagues, and also to our partners in the private sector, the National Resilience Council. We'd like to thank them for their support. In fact, this past few days, I've been spending with them, coaching and mentoring with the mayors and governors and planners in preparation for the mayor's colloquium with the UNDRR Secretary General Mami Misutori on Friday. So on Friday, from 1 o'clock to 5 p.m., mayors, governors, and planners and communities will showcase how they have used the science and technology to respond to the COVID, and how they're able to govern and mobilize the resources of their communities so that the poor can basically be protected under COVID and also be able to get resources. So thank you very much, my friends at the political science, my colleagues at the Department of Sociology, thank you very much. And also my friends and colleagues at the Galing Pook Foundation and the National Resilience Council. And also my colleagues and friends at the Ateneo de Naga University, Visayas State University, especially the Gender Resource Center, and the University of the Philippines at the Visayas. Thank you very much for all the support. And oh, I forgot, the pamantasan ng lungsod ng Manila, I think some ng Muntinlupa, I think Dean Weng and the other partners and President Ellen Presnedi might be listening to us. So thank you very much and welcome. Let's now go to the meat and to the gem of this occasion, the intellectual gems of our brilliant, distinguished speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Porian. Now we begin the lectures by calling our first guest speaker, Professor Miwako Hosoda, who will discuss about the condition of a sustainable coexistence between people and nature. Prof. Miwako Hosoda is the current Vice President of Seisa University, Japan. I now welcome Professor Miwako Hosoda.
Thank you very much, Ina, for your the introduction. And I truly express my gratitude to Professor Emma Poroyo for inviting me to this significant web seminar. And thank you for all for making this possible. I'm really happy to be here with you. So today I would like to talk about the condition of the sustainable coexistence between people and nature. So I'll share the screen. So basically, my academic background is sociology, and now I'm in this time I'm like to show the several cases which we operated in Japan. So currently, we all know that there is a challenges to balance in protecting the natural environment and industrial development. So we need to consider how to create sustainable development in the global society and preserve the ecosystem. At this point, I think the key concept is coexisting of people and nature. The impact from climate change are happening everywhere on the earth now. An increasing of temperature affect ecosystem and community around the world, from south to north and east to west. Actually, Japanese society has faced many major environmental problems such as air and water pollution due to the rapid economic development since the 1960s. Such kind of air pollution, water pollution affect people's health very severely. And Minamata disease and Itai disease are man-made disease and so well known in Japan. It was caused by environmental pollution due to imperial handling of industrial waste by Japanese corporations. although the first occurred in very early stage in 1912, it, it spread in 1950s and 1960s, and it is so harmful for the human life and not only the natural environment but the human life. After these kind of tragic things, people are beginning to disapprove economic first way of thinking and have started to think preserving natural environment is important. These people are not of those who are living in the agriculture and fishing, but also government and company workers, scientists, engineers, and researchers. So they are willing to cooperate to protect nature. Furthermore, rather than simply aiming to protect the environment, this movement is now beginning to present ideas in which both nature and human can coexist. This may be regarded as a new social movement. So, if we can collaborate together, the nature can be changed. For example, the river in Fukuoka region, it is called Murasaki River. It was so polluted in 1950s through 1960s. However, um, after a lot of effort for the people, the river revived like this. Also, this is the same place, picture of past and present. If the people are working hard to preserve the environment, the nature can reflect such an effort. So this time, I'd like to introduce three cases of sustainable coexistence between people and nature in Japan. One is Kesenuma, the northern part of Japan. The second is Sado Island. And the third one is Odawara City. So let me introduce the three cases. The first one is in Kesenuma, aqua agriculture. In this area, it is called the Sanriku-Rayas coastline. The Sanriku coastline became a complex coastline terrain due to wave erosion. For the reason, many fish come near and the fishery have become one of the major industry. So that's oyster aquaculture. This is very good condition to cultivate the oyster in this area. However, in this area, red tide have often occurred. Red tide is a phenomenon in which phytoplankton living in water abnormally increased and the color of water changed into red and brownish red. So phytoplankton grows from domestic wastewater and factory wastewater. So Mr. Takeyama, he's an oyster farmer, and he and his colleague came to realize that the sea will never be clean again unless the same sense of value is shared by all people living along the river. So he established the organization society to protect the forest for oyster. To begin his activities to promote the protection of both the forest and the sea. He thinks forest and the sea are connected by river, so to make clean the sea, he thinks to protect the mountain is really important. So Mr. Hatakeyama and his colleagues started to plant trees on the mountain to create a forest near the source of the river. And a poet named this movement Mori wa Umi no Koibito, which is translated into the forest is longing for the sea is longing for the forest. So many people get together to plant the tree. Since 1989, approximately 30,000 trees have been planted. Children also helped this movement and participated in planting the trees. As of today, over 10,000 children have engaged. It can be a good opportunity for children to learn the environment. In this area, we had a great Eastern Japan disaster in 2011, and everything was wiped away by the tsunami, including the oyster agriculture farm and the factory processing the oyster. Everybody thought all marine lives have died after the tsunami. However, it was not. The amazingly tremendous number of marine lives are being recovered at an astonishing speed. So now, Mr. Hatakeyama think this is happened thanks to the forest, and he now enjoys his success of business of oyster agriculture and farming, and we can see the coexistence of human and nature in this case. So next case is in Sado Island. Here, the turkey bird and the rice farmer coexist. The turkey bird is known as Nipponia Nippon and crested ibis. It used to live in all over Japan. However, the last wild turkey bird in Japan died in October 2003. Turkey birds usually eat frogs, small fish, and small animals near rice paddy field. However, the usage of pesticide and chemical fertilizer have killed such creatures, so there were nothing which turkey bird can eat. So before the wild one was died, the Japanese government protect the turkey bird in a cage and try to make the turkey bird the artificially bred. And in October 2018, the Sixth Crested Ibis Convention Center in Japan. And there, 180 turkey birds are bred. And Japanese government gradually released the bird into the wildlife. And this is a big cage was built to help the turkey bird adapt to life in the wild. And finally, turkey bird have a chicks in 2012. It is the first time chicks had hatched in the wild in Japan in 36 years. And some farmers in Santo began a new agricultural process called harmonized farming of plants and creatures. Farmers tried to reduce the chemical fertilizer in the rice field. As a consequence, frogs, small fishes, and small animals came back to the rice field. Then, turkey bird also came back to eat these fish and animals. So now it is think that this method of farming that produces a habit with a paddy field for creatures living in the area. This type of farming protect and produce animal and plants at the same time. So now the rice are sold in the very good price. The rice is called Toki rice. Although these rice are sold in higher price than normal rice, they are very good for the health because it is without the toxic chemical fertilizer. And the Japanese consumer like this story, and the farmers have a great success to selling the rice. It can be noted as a win-win solution for the farmers, the consumers, and most importantly, the environment. So I'll show the third example. It is a citizens solar power plants in Odawara City. So Odawara City is almost 100 kilometers away from Tokyo, and the residents in Odawara and the companies and the local government collaborate together to make a clean energy and a good circulation in the community. So what did he do? What did they do? To create Hotoku Energy Association. The citizens and the local companies and local bank make a citizens fund to create the mega solar power plant in Odawara City. And the company are working together with the citizens and local company to create a solar power energy, and people can buy that solar power energy from the company. So there is a circulation of money in the community. They do not have to buy the electricity from the outside of the community and enjoy the benefit for all. So this is one of the power plant in Odawara City. Also, the electric company founded in Odawara City. Also, the Odawara Hakone Energy Consortium was founded by the cooperation of the local government. And also the local and company create a zero energy building. This building is operating by the solar power and the natural and based energy functions. So this kind of movement is called a part of Morisato Kawaumi movement. They respect the power of nature and use the nature power in a sustainable way. They enjoy the benefit from the forest, river, and ocean, and the people also help the nature to be sustained and enjoy the benefit together. And it is also called Satoyama Satomi. The United Nations University adopts this idea and initiate the International Partnership for Satoyama initiative. And this kind of the human and nature coexistence can be known in an international society and can be operate and practiced in global society. The why energy matter? So when we think the protecting natural environment, one of the big concern is energy matter. If we change the source of energy, we can see the significant difference to protect in the nature. In Japan, we experienced the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant accident. It is harmful for natural environment, but it also affects the people's human relations. And the community has recovered from earthquake and tsunami. However, the negative impact of nuclear power plant still remain by now. The people in Fukushima still has stigmatized and the project of Fukushima is still discriminated. So we have to consider about psychosocial damage from the nuclear power plant accident, and it can be happen everywhere. So we have to think about the sustainable development goals, and it is the implication of the SDGs is integration of the solution. So today I'd like to show the concept of gross national happiness in Bhutan. We don't have much time this time, so please see the video later. And what is important is we can find an integrated way to solve the problem through interdisciplinary and international collaborations. So we can seek not only the economic development but uh, in the human being well-being and happiness. So we need respect nature, and we know now all are connected, and the circulation is really important. And as more people, especially children and young generation, become aware of this natural um, resource and the richness of nature, and nature will become rich and flourish, and so does people. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Miwako, for that excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Following Sustainable Development Goals, we now move to our next speaker, not set of speakers, who will be discussing the Philippine experience, mirroring integrity of creation and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. This will be led by Father Stephen Redillas from the University of Santo Tomas and Letran, Manaoag, and Professor Lucero from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, and the University of the Philippines, Open University. Let us welcome Father Redillas and Professor Lucero.
Good morning.
Morning to
Can you
all.
hear? Good morning to all.
Father,
Morning.
Ted, we see your notes in the slide. So it's in
You put in
present
full screen, Father.
there. Okay
There
na
it
po.
is. Okay na. Okay. So, good morning to all. Thank you for inviting us to present an ecological practice at Caleruega-Philippines Retreat Center. I am Father Stephen, and my co-presenter is Professor Ray Lucero. He and his wife, Doc Bernie, provided us not only the science behind our ecological practice, but the friendship that evolved from there. So let me say this first. We are inspired and awed by the presentation of Professor Miwako, underscoring the possibility of responding to United Nations SDG goals on a macro level. Ours is more on a micro level. So the title of our presentation, the Caleruega-Philippines Experience, Mirroring Integrity of Creation and UN Sustainable Development Goals. Our outline is after the introduction, we will provide an example of the biodiversity at Caleruega and then move into our waste management practices and then how we integrated indigenous practice to this. And then also, as a hindsight, we were able to develop an ecological and economic argument. Hindsight is an operative word because we never really thought of the UN sustainability goals. And then Laudato Si is not yet out there during the time that we have started with the practices. And then after analyzing it, particularly with this kind of opportunities given to us, we are able to see that what we were doing there is a kind of is aligned to these two very important what do you call this goal, the goal in the Laudato Si, and also as a kind of a local response to UNSDG. Okay, so what is Caleruega? No, Caleruega is a retreat center. It is a house of prayer and renewal, a beautiful and inspiring place for retreats, etc., and other activities. But at the end of it, we're very conscious that it is also a kind of a showcase for care for creation workshop. Okay. The land area is 10 hectares, very much small in scale, when Professor Miwako was discussing about islands. No, for us, it's just a patch of 10 hectares. And part of the beautiful rolling hills of Batulao Mountains in Batangas province. It grew in popularity not only as a retreat center but also as a wedding destination. And also people visit this place more recently as an eco park. So for quite a number of years now, Caleruega has also become kind of a laboratory at the gardens as laboratory of ecological teaching and then also of learning. Um, Okay, but Caleruega is primarily a retreat center where for more than 2 decades now, almost all graduating students of the Dominican academic institutions and other schools spend several days for their spiritual activities before they graduate from college or from high school. Part of the mission vision of the retreat center is to envision, I'm quoting here, to envision Caleruega to be a home valuing integrity of creation. In particular, we aim at encouraging and supporting organic farming, alternative medicine, and sustainable use of the earth's resources. The flowers that you see here, all the flowers that you will see in the slides, are the flowers that bloom in Caleruega. Just to show you, let me just show you some of the frequently visited spaces in the 10-hectare span. We are proud of the variety of plants at the retreat center. So this biodiversity is reflected in three areas which I will be discussing here. So in terms of variety of flowering plant collection, ornamentals, and then the different fruit-bearing trees, and also our practices, sometimes the hit and miss practice that I implemented there. So I am excusing Sir Ray, no, in that, and in the different hardwood collection planted inside the 10-hectare property. Um, Another reason for the popularity of the center is its ornamental collection. So, as I've said, everything that you see here in this slide, you can see are actually pictures of what we have in Caleruega. So, for 25 years, we collected and propagated more than 200 species of flowering and non-flowering ornamentals. We have collection of endangered native jade vines, for example, and enchanting but exotic amercia. But we have a prize ornamental in our collection, a very rare native orchid. And for security reason, I will not tell you what's the name of that orchid and where is it located. No? Uh, Also, our success in propagating most plants can be attributed to the production and application of organic fertilizers. And more importantly, the stakeholders buy in to what we were doing. So our collection pattern also evolved from patronizing non-endemic plants to conscious effort to plant only native ornamentals. After years of waiting for fruits, the community now enjoy the fruits from its orchard. No? We were not always successful with fruit-bearing trees because I tried introducing fruit trees from Thailand, fruit trees from another country, only to find out that they may thrive, but they will not actually have the fruits that we desire them to have. So also even the Carabao, the famed Carabao mango of the Philippines do not thrive well in that area. But however, as you can see, the durians, the cacao, the chicos, the mangosteens, the guyabanos, the langkas, no, found their home and thrive well in that area. Another classification of plants are hardwood. Our plan actually is to make Caleruega a showcase of native trees. At first, we were enamored with mahogany. No, it's easy to grow. It's fast growing, and they can be very imposing. No? However, we learned that planting this exotic tree affected plant diversity. No? So we stopped planting exotic trees and then introduced endemic trees like what you see here, the oud, the yakals, and the mulaves, and then the cacahuate or the madre de cacao. So with this change in preference for native trees, the variety of plants and trees, birds started to come back and nest. And we still see every now and then wildcats or the musang because we have coffee plantation there, no? And they thrive. And then we have the opportunity to produce the most expensive coffee in the world, no? The Indonesians will call it differently, and then also in other places, the Vietnamese would call it also with another name, no? And then also monitor lizards population appear to have increased. So with the ecosystem, oikos meaning home, those who live here naturally, the native of this place started coming back. But we did not arrive at the condition of this condition or this situation to be successful in our ecological practices or initiative overnight. It took time. And we are also certain that this initiative cannot be sustained without a sustainable structure, no? A farmer's practice, for example. So in the next few slides, we will present the science, the support structure, and then the direction. We will talk about the staging laboratory, our best kept open secret from waste to gold, the story of composting there. And then recently we introduced native bees as pollinators. And then more importantly, the empowerment, the continuous stakeholder engagement that in most of these initiatives will ensure the success or even the failure, no, of our initiative. So training for skill development. So this is our one of our nurseries. So nurseries are important in Caleruega, not only for propagation but for acclimating new collections. Hence, even native ornamentals from mountain provinces, no, and the cold area here in the Philippines, and the rare native orchids found in islands were able to gradually adapt and thrive and flower in Caleruega, no, because of those nurseries as our staging laboratory. And our best kept open secret, because we would like people to learn of the secret and to know and to practice also of the secret, is that this from waste to gold. Our composting areas, we have one demo and then 4 satellite, what they call this, no, composting area. So truth be told, the blooming of Caleruega, the increase in biodiversity, started to be realized only after successful production of compost and its widespread regular applications. This is also the time when our workers, our people, our stakeholders saw and so with their own eyes and experienced the effect of the organic fertilizer. So there is no what do you call this, no, substitute for experience, learning experience. And then recently, through again the help of Dr. Ray, we continue to replicate nature's way of nurturing plants by introducing native pollinators. We call this lukot. Lukot, that's the native term in Batangas. And they don't sting. They're very small. They don't sting. And yet they do wonderful job in pollinating our plants there. However, we have yet to fully reap the benefits of these bees in terms of the honey production and also the other byproducts of these colonies. No? Another crucial strategy is to involve stakeholders from the beginning of the initiative. So the buy-in, so the training may be difficult, but its long-term benefit will ensure sustainability of the practice. So through the help of these experts, mostly from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, no? So we have all the experts from that university helping us, no, in our agricultural practices in Caleruega. So we do this through them and with them and partnership with experts. And after so many years of of practicing this, hit and miss, sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not, we were able to develop our ecological and economic arguments to sustain the practice. So yeah. First, the ecological argument, we realize the green benefits of ecological argument along three strands. Soil toxicity mitigation. Uh, Caleruega became an exemplar also of practice of circular economy, albeit in a very small scale. And then we also help reduce carbon footprints, no, particularly in the area. There is a cooling effect, no. So when you go to that 10-hectare place with all those plants, no, there is a palpable or a felt difference when you go out of the area. So this is our ecological argument. On the other hand, our economic argument, as you can see, the pre-WMP, meaning pre-waste management practice, cost, we rely so much on synthetic fertilizer. And then afterwards, when we started producing, compost, we were able to save. So our savings help us in reducing the operational cost in maintaining the retreat center. So not only in fertilizers, but also in pesticides, and also in managing the waste, bringing out, because before we bring out the waste of Caleruega. No? So approximately the yearly saving is small, no? But just the same, it helps us. No? It's just 156,000 approximately. Um, so when analyzing both of these ecological and economic practices, we realize that they correspond to what is now known as a circular economy. So producing compost at commercial quantity, propagating plant varieties for sale, providing employees with alternative source of income, monetizing other ecological benefits, they all fit, into what is now being proposed and being put out there as a sustainable economy, which is the circular economy. Now, that's the situation in Caleruega right now, but there is always the science behind the practice, no? And I do not have the expertise to talk about that. And for that, I will call on Professor Ray to explain to us the science behind the practice and the history, because Caleruega before it reached this kind of situation that we are in right now, it was not like that from the beginning. So Sir Ray will provide us, with the background and also the science behind the practice. Sir Ray.
Thank you, Father. Good morning to all. The transformation of Caleruega, as Father Stephen has just described, is not easy. There are so many challenges, but because we are always inspired by nature, we were able to hurdle those challenges. One of these is the pest outbreak, because when we entered Caleruega in the early 1990s, it was a monoculture stand of mangoes, and then few annual crops. So pest outbreaks are common. And then the farmers there, and most of our workers there are farmers from the area, have been constantly using synthetic fertilizers and pesticides. And one of the control measures with these insect pests that have been introduced from Indonesia is to cut down infested parts. And so Caleruega then has several problems with pests, with soil that has become toxic and not receptive anymore to fertilizers, and the waste. But Caleruega was able to transform this because we were always inspired by the ecological relationships and principles of nature. And so Father Stephen mentioning about organic fertilizer is one of the keys to these challenges. Also, we were able to use an innovation from my students in 1989, the use of red pepper in combination with detergent as a substitute, as an alternative to carcinogenic pesticides in the market. Whether we could, yes, we were inspired by this simple principle of the recycling of biomass. When we go to the forest, a natural ecosystem, we know that the energy is plenty of nutrients being recycled, almost close to recycling. And this understanding of the processes of nature, that there are microorganisms, there are macroorganisms involved, and in constant association with the roots of trees, like these animals and microorganisms. We use this as guiding principle, this kind of natural relationship. We could go, yes. To, yes. So in transforming Caleruega, we resorted to several innovations, and I personally believe that the success of being of a community to be resilient to these climate extremes rests on the innovations that we propose or we are um, implementing. It's easy to enumerate the innovations, but the process, the social process of raising awareness to our workers who are farmers, who have been accustomed to use conventional agriculture and like pesticides, synthetic pesticides and fertilizers, it is not that easy. So um, even the integration of stingless bees, which species are already there. We have to demonstrate this and make our workers experience. I think the key word there is make them experience so they would be aware. And I think this process, this model of educating, of constantly raising the awareness of workers, I think this is one of the key factors in the success of Caleruega. So, Father, mukhang kailangan ninyo mag-unmute. Sa inyo na. Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so thank you, Sir Ray. So although we never really thought of aligning our practices to UN Sustainable Development Goals, and also obviously Laudato Si is not yet in the picture, then in hindsight, no, we observe that they correspond to these goals and then to the aspirations of Laudato Si. So for example, how Caleruega's local sustainable ecological practices respond to UN SDGs. So for, in climate action, Sir Ray kindly help me here. So we have a lower carbon footprint due to reduction of synthetic fertilizers, production of compost, and then also the lessening of the use of oil-based pesticides, and then biodiversity conservation. And Caleruega, the 10 hectare that we have there, became a refuge of native plants in the area. So particularly that the surrounding spaces of the area is now being developed as a golf course, as resorts, no, and as other what they call these communities, no, urbanized communities. So, and also Sir Ray informed me that because of our stock there, Caleruega became a source of propagules to nearby spaces. And more importantly, we provide as an exemplar of land conservation and maximization of resources. In number 11, Caleruega provides equitable access to green public space and also a demonstration to eco-laboratory to visitors. And also, third, it provides alternative paradigm of urban development in the area. Um, Next is in number one, which is no poverty. Of course, we will not be able to eradicate poverty, but to mitigate it. No, so Caleruega workers are among the most vulnerable. For instance, so in this pandemic disrupted economy, sale of plants and compost are an alternative source of income for the institution and the workers. And also the technology shared to workers, which we did pre-pandemic through education, increased the resiliency and competency for alternative source of income like backyard uh, farming, backyard composting, and even harvesting of worm cast, which they encounter no, as they walk around their place. And in number 12, which is a responsible consumption and production, efficient management, we were able to provide an example of efficient management of natural resources, topsoil retention in ridges, monitoring water table through indigenous method. There is a tree there, we call it tibig, which is if you have the tree, there is an indicator that your water table is still very much healthy. And also composting, which lessens the toxic waste and pollutants using what we call siling labuyo or chili as insecticides. And then, but we need to bring, as Sir Ray pointed a while ago, we need to bring all of these practices into one farmer's practice. So the confluence of these indigenous practices, the use of native bees as pollinators, organic fertilizers, pesticides, and preference for endemic plants increase workers' appreciation for responsible consumption and production. So, what's the most critical challenge to this ecological practice or practices? One word: sustainability. So we still have to go beyond that notion of novelty to something that is sustainability, to something that is sustainable. So how to sustain ongoing practices? Sir Ray, your turn. Ina, kindly unmute.
There are three words that I found, Father. Because what we usually do in Caleruega is to tour around and together with our workers identify the problems that we observe. It's a very challenging and encouraging and happy occasion. In fact, this is a continuing education process for all, not only to our workers, but Father Stephen and other administrators were with us. And we reflect on the causes of the problem and the effects of the problem. And the people, the workers are with us in identifying, this is participatory, in identifying a particular solution and try it. And then next time, we sit down and assess what happened, why. And so this continuous identification of the problem and problem solving is a very important occasion. Of course, the prayers are very, very important. So it's a capacity building process for all, to all that are involved. Also, it's a lifelong learning to our administrators of Caleruega, like Father Stephen. And thirdly, the innovations. When people, and when farmers, when our workers see the change and the positive benefit from the demonstration, they are ready to use it and apply it even at their own. Like for example, tomorrow you could use organic fertilizer, and it's very hard to say how. But in fact, they would just gather the vermicast of our native earthworm tomorrow or 2 hours from now. You have something organic to apply to your plants. So I think this passion to reach out to people, share to people, and to be always inspired by nature, the economic and the spiritual benefits are endless. Father.
Thank you, Sir Ray. And with that, we end our presentation. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Father Redillas and Professor Lucero. Now we welcome Father Jojo Fung, who is an assistant professor of contextual theology, Sacred Springs Dialogue Institute of Spirituality and Sustainability in the Loyola Schools of Theology. I now hand over the floor to Father Jojo Fung.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I will share my file with why do I keep getting this advanced sharing option all the time when I want to share my file? Hello?
Father, I think it's just an option. There's a basic tab at the left of advanced. Where you yes.
I'll share my screen.
You share screen, Father.
Yes, okay, Bob. Are you seeing the screen?
Yes, we
Yes,
see
Father.
it.
Just have to put it on full screen. There we go.
All right, this is it, yeah?
Yes.
So what I like to do is, if we can just have this one I have to put it away, right?
Father, louder. I cannot hear you.
Really? Let me see whether can you hear me now?
Yes, Father. And your presentation also looks great.
Okay, so maybe we start with this this Zen bell. The bell is to connect us with the earth, with all life forms. But more importantly, is to connect us with also the sacred, the divine, and the transcendent, the life beyond, the life in all life forms in our common home. It's also to have a heart of gratitude for life. I would like to really emphasize a bit more on towards an integral ecology, or IE, based on Laudato Si 216 through coexistential ecology, or CE. I pick up this word from Professor Miwako Hosoda because she talked about the existence between the natural environment and the human ecology. I thought it's a great term to use in terms of coexistential ecology. And I like the way Father Tapp and Dr. Ray presented how even in the retreat center in Caleruega, the human retreatants are in touch with the earth, with the plants, flowers, actually with the fauna and flora, basically with Mother Earth. So I think this is a very important term that I would like to use. Climate change is actually the consequences of the way we fail to really sustainably manage the resources of the earth for human development, or what we call unequal asymmetric development in our world, which has been critiqued so strongly by the latest encyclical of the Pope entitled Fratelli Tutti, means all brothers and sisters. These are some of the pictures of the recent climate crisis, in central Vietnam due to the storm called Linfa in October 10, and then the next day by Storm Nangka, October 11. Now, if you look at this, there's a child found alive but totally muddied, or soil. So he has been discovered alive after this massive flood in central Vietnam. Unfortunately, there is a mother who is found dead with a child as she covers her body over the child. But she died as a result of this climate crisis, which is a result of anthropocentric human activities that has resulted in climate injustices for all the survivors and those who perish in the flood, the recent flood in central Vietnam. So this alerts us to the importance of building resilient capacities in our people so that, they're much more brave and empowered to have that resilient spirit or capacity in the face of climate change, but also, to work with them, not just this generation, but intergenerationally for climate justice. So we know because of wanton exploitation of the earth resources, especially non-renewable resources, and the scandalous marginalization of the poor due to excessive industrial exploitation and neo-extractivism that has brought about rapid global warming and despoilment of nature. So I like to propose, for understanding the Laudato Si notion. Laudato Si is the encyclical of the Pope on ecology, promulgated in the year 2016, calling for integral ecology. It means really an integrated approach. And based on number 139, it states, quote, "We are faced not with two separate crises, one environmental and the other social, but rather with one complex crisis, which is both social and environmental. Strategies for a solution demand an integrated approach to combating poverty, restoring dignity to the excluded, at the same time protecting nature." This is that relational notion of integral ecology from Laudato Si that you and I, especially, in the academic institutions, all stakeholders and people in this MA course, to pay attention to. That what is social and natural is at the same time, the problem faced by the most vulnerable and marginal communities, not least those coastal communities. So the notion of integral ecology calls for what we call ecological conversion, a conversion to a much more comprehensive or integral notion of ecology as stated in Laudato Si number 137 to number 162. So this notion embraces environmental and economic and social ecology as stated in Laudato Si 138 to 142, embraces the notion of cultural ecology from 143 to 146, the notion of ecology of daily life from numbers 147 to 155, meaning to say that all this, conceptual notion must be translated into daily lifestyle of the way we must consume less, use less, and therefore we increase more in terms of our quality of life, that we have more time for awe, wonder, contemplation, prayer, so on and so forth. It must also embrace the notion of promoting the common good from numbers 156 to 158. It also embraces what we call intergenerational justice from numbers 159 to 162. I also advocate that integral ecology must embrace what we call ecofeminist theology and spirituality, must embrace the mystical theology or spirituality, and finally, indigenous spirituality. The key notion in integral ecology is actually found in Laudato Si number 16. Everything in the world is connected. Everything in the world is connected. This is the key line to understand integral ecology, because we are all interdependently interrelated. So there must be a sense of interbeingness, no? Between myself and fellow humans, myself and the poor and the most vulnerable and violated, excluded, but also myself and more than human beings, and will refer especially to the world of spirituality. Now, this is what I would like to emphasize on. The climate crisis is a challenge belonging to all and meant for all, as highlighted in Laudato Si number 23. So to care for the global common like climate, we need a spirituality to experience, quote, the life of the spirit. This is very key, yeah? The life of the spirit that is not dissociated from the body or from nature or from worldly realities, but lived in and with them in communion with all that surrounds us, you know. So we must get down to this sense that there is a world of the divine, of the sacred, or what indigenous people call the world of spirits. For to the indigenous spirituality, everything around us is sacred, you know, including the mountain, the river, the plants, the bees, the kalulut, or what we call lukot. They're all sacred to us because I will explain henceforth. So integral ecology invites us to be ecologically converted by opening ourselves to the sacred power of God's Spirit, or the Spirit of the Creator. No? In Hebrew, the word is Ruach Elohim, the breath, the life-giving breath, no? Or the wind of God, or the divine breath and wind in us, so that we are converted from the anthropocentrism. That means really a focus on human, and more than that, on the elitist white male and the white male's norms and standards, no? Which I think many of us in the global south decry from the perspective of ecofeminism, no? To courageously embrace the ecofeminist, mystical, and indigenous spiritualities, to promote integral ecology that includes, above all, the religio-cultural and daily ecologies and intergenerational justice, in order to generate a progress that is certainly, quote, healthier, more human, more social, more integral, unquote, based on Laudato Si 112. No? See, the eco-feminist spirituality on integral ecology alerts us to be open to the life-generating energies in us, humans, humans, all of us humans, not just the elitist white male of the global north in the Euro-American countries, you know? But in all of us humans, we have these life-generating energies, while the indigenous, everyday mystical spiritualities invites us to be open to all lives, all things that enjoy the life-sustaining presence of the plural spirit, which was earlier on advocated by Teilhard de Chardin, a French mystic, philosopher, and paleontologist, no? As he quotes, the phenomenon of the spirit in 1969, and later by Professor Tu Wai Ming of the Harvard University in 1991, who posited that matter as the embodiment of the spirit. In other words, you know, we have to arrive at the deepest level of human existence and also coexistence with other life forms, realizing that at the most fundamental foundational level, we are all spirits, or embodiment of God's spirit or of the creator spirit. No? So I'd like to play this for you so that we can enjoy it. No? This is looking at an eco-feminist solution to human development, no? In terms of resource management of the in Rajasthan, looking at what we call looking at women population, especially girl children,
इस पौधे को भी मेरी माँ ने लगाया, मेरे पिताजी ने लगाया और मुझे भी जन्म मेरे माता पिता ने दिया है। इस नाते ये पेड़ मेरा भाई है और मेरे भाई को किसी भी कीमत पर मैं नुकसान नहीं पहुंचाने दूंगी और वो भाई सदियों सदियों तक उन बच्चियों की, बेटियों की याद दिलाता रहेगा। ये पिपलांत्री का काम है।
When we think of Rajasthan, we get an image of endless desert with camels. I was fortunate enough to see vegetation in the midst of this so-called wasteland, which comes alive with trees, water, and daughters. Come to Piplantri, where trees are sons and brothers. Piplantri is a small village with a population of around 6,000 people in the district of Rajsamand in Rajasthan, India. It has gained immense global attention in the past decade for its successful practice of ecofeminism. In a country that still favors the birth of a son, Piplantri village not only embraces daughters but also has created a tradition that benefits the village and its environment. This is the story of one man's mission in a village to save Piplantri's daughters and its nature. Rewind to the year of 2005. Piplantri and a few surrounding villages fell prey to deforestation due to marble mining.
कि आसपास के एरिया में बहुत बड़े स्तर पर सफेद संगमरमर की का खनन कार्य होता है और जहां पर माइनिंग का कार्य होता है वहां पर अब निश्चित तौर पर बहुत बड़ा नुकसान होता है और वो यहाँ भी हुआ है.
The marble mining had several adverse effects such as decreasing water levels, habitat destruction, water scarcity, and landscape destruction. While mining caused destruction to nature, the society was ridden by female infanticide, feticide, dowry, and gender discrimination. When Mr. Shyam Sundar Paliwal was elected as a Sarpanch or the head of the village in 2006, he had plenty of problems to solve. During his tenure of 5 years and even after that, he has worked hard with the help and support of the villagers to build a sustainable, eco-friendly model village. They have worked towards building a sustainable society where equal importance is given to the upbringing of the girls born in the village, while reducing the water scarcity and executing afforestation, rainwater harvesting, and free education.
जहाँ पे सबसे बड़ी बात है लड़कियों को गर्ल्स एजुकेशन के लिए बहुत ज़्यादा उनको योगदान दिया जाता है, उनको पार्टिसिपेट किया जाता है.
After his daughter's death around the year of 2006, he came up with innovative schemes fully utilizing the government's funds and projects. In the memory of his daughter, Paliwal started an initiative of planting 111 trees when a girl child is born.
हर बेटी के नाम पर 111 पौधे. इस ग्राम पंचायत में जितनी भी लड़कियों का साल भर में जन्म होगा उन सभी बच्चियों के नाम पर हम बारिश में वृक्षारोपण करेंगे और 111 पौधे लगाएंगे और गांव वालों से एक एफिडेविट लेंगे कि मेरे परिवार में कोई भी व्यक्ति भ्रूण हत्या नहीं करेगा, मेरे परिवार में कोई भी व्यक्ति बाल विवाह नहीं करेगा, बेटी को शिक्षा से वंचित नहीं रखेगा. बेटी के नाम पर गांव वाले पैसा इकट्ठा करके बेटी के नाम पर 31,000 रुपए की एफडी 18 साल तक होने तक लेकर ये काम पिपलांत्री के लोगों ने किया है.
Panchayat at your doorstep, Swajal Dhara Yojana and Kiran Nidhi Yojana are some of the most popular schemes that he has introduced. The union government acknowledged the efforts of the villagers with the Nirmal Gram Award. In 2007, for his rigorous efforts and far-sighted vision, Mr. Shyam Sundar Paliwal was honored with the President's Award. The Piplantri model is now being followed by many panchayat across the country. With determination and dedication, people have made Piplantri an oasis of hope, inspiring other villages to tread the sustainable path.
आज पिपलांत्री एक विचारधारा बन गया है पूरे विश्व समुदाय के सामने और पिपलांत्री में जो वृक्षारोपण हुआ है, जल संरक्षण का काम हुआ है, सरकार की योजनाओं से काम हुआ है, ये अद्भुत कार्य है. आज पिपलांत्री का नारा है बेटी, पानी, पेड़, गोचर भूमि, वन्य जीवों को बचाकर लोगों को प्राकृतिक आधारित रोजगार उपलब्ध कराना. ये पिपलांत्री है.
So again, back to the importance of the communities, especially their sense of the divine. No? So this is really someone that I know who is himself what we call a hiko. His name is Sunton. He actually conducts ritual during the seasonal planting of paddy in the highlands of Chiang Mai, that is Thailand. So this this ritual is to connect with the sacred owner called Tatitato, that is the mystic owner or creator, and with all the cruel spirits, of nature and ancestors, so that we invoke their sacred power to bless the river with abundance of water and to bless the land so that it is fertile enough to produce, abundance of grains, which is the paddy grain to feed the people. And this is where we pray together at the shrine, together with the ritual specialist called Kihe. He's what we call Sarakata. He's a healer, a predictor of the causes of sickness in nature, in the community, in individuals. So the connecting with the sacred, with the divine, not just above, but also in our midst, is very important in order to ensure what we call the sustainability of the community life and the land and the forest and the water and the field. So in other words, there is this coexistential sacredness, sense of reverence, between the humans, all life forms on this planet Earth. Finally, I think, as scholars, stakeholders, people studying for MA, working in the various NGOs, I think there is a need to protect what we call the oceans of the world, especially the whales. Whales are intimately connected to what we call climate change, or to bring about change of climate for the better. So I'd like all of us to watch this so that I say we are conscious that the ocean is made up of water, basically the oceans, and how we must really ensure that the ocean is not toxified by plastics and other toxins that have been poured out, into the ocean and the sea through water. Something that I think even Professor Miwako
One of the most
highlighted.
exciting scientific findings of the past half century has been the discovery of widespread trophic cascades. A trophic cascade is an ecological process which starts at the top of the food chain and tumbles all the way down to the bottom. We all know that whales eat fish and krill, and some people, certain politicians in Japan, for instance, have argued that killing whales is good for human beings, as it boosts the food available for us to eat. And so you would think. But as the great whales declined, so did the numbers of fish and krill. It seems counterintuitive. Surely their numbers would rise as their major predators disappeared. But it now turns out that whales not only eat these animals, they also keep them alive. In fact, they help to sustain the entire living system of the ocean. Whales feed at depth in waters that are often pitch dark, and then they return to the surface, to the photic zone, where there's enough light for photosynthesis to happen. There they release what biologists call fecal plumes, vast outpourings of poo, punamis. These plumes are rich in iron and nitrogen, nutrients which are often very scarce in the surface waters. And these nutrients fertilize the plant plankton that lives in the only place where plants can survive, the photic zone. Fertilizing the surface waters isn't the only thing the whales do. By plunging up and down through the water column, they also keep kicking the plankton back up into the photic zone, giving it more time to reproduce before it sinks into the abyss. Even today, the whale populations have been greatly reduced. The vertical mixing of water caused by movements of animals up and down through the column of the oceans is astonishingly roughly the same as the amount of mixing caused by all the world's wind and waves and tides. More plant plankton means more animal plankton, on which the larger creatures then feed. In other words, more whales means more fish and krill. But the story doesn't end here, because plankton not only feeds the animals of the sea, it also absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. When eventually it sinks to the ocean floor, it takes this carbon out of circulation down to a place where it remains for thousands of years. The more whales there are, the more plankton there is. The more plankton there is, the more carbon is drawn out of the air. When whales were at their historical populations, before great numbers of them were killed, it seems that they might have been responsible for removing tens of millions of tons of carbon from the atmosphere every year. Whales change the climate. The return of the great whales, if they're allowed to recover, could be seen as a benign form of geoengineering. It could undo some of the damage we've done, both to the living systems of the sea and to the atmosphere.
So my fellow Earth sojourners, ask this question of ourselves. How is it possible that the most intellectual creature to ever walk the planet Earth is destroying our only home? Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Father Jojo. Now we have a few more minutes for the open forum. We've compiled your questions from the Zoom chat box and the Facebook Live comment section from the CCARPH Facebook page. I'd also like to call on Dr. Emma Porio to assist in this open forum facilitation. Dr. Emma, would you like to read the first question? Okay. Perhaps I can read the first question. This is addressed to Professor Miwako.
It's free.
All right. So before the March 11/11 earthquake and tsunami, the Japanese may have thought that nuclear power reactors were safe. Do you think that there is a sustainable future for nuclear energy in Japan? Or has public opinion changed so dramatically as to force government and industry to close reactors in coming years?
Thank you very much. It is a really good question. After the nuclear power plant accident, all Japanese nuclear power plants, there are almost 40, were shut down for the examination. And we spent several years without any nuclear power plant that we went through. And now, gradually, one or two new the nuclear power plants opened and operated. And so far, almost 5 to 7% of the electric energy are from nuclear power plant. And current Japanese government expected to use the nuclear power plant energy to 30%. And they want to use a baseline power from, they want to get a baseline power from the nuclear power plant. There are so many opposition and argument. So we need to reconsider about the the allocation of the energy strategy, but it's still under argument. Thank you very much for the great question.
Ina?
Yes, Dr. Emma.
I'm sorry, I was muted a while ago, and that's why I couldn't speak. But Miwako, that question came from Greg Tangonan, the Professor Emeritus and Director of the Ateneo Innovation Center, who is right now in California. And he is responsible for our disaster resilience technologies. So he's very interested, I think, in knowing perhaps what are some of the technological interventions in relation to that?
Yeah, thank you very much. And also, this matter is not only the technical reason, but also the industrial construction. There are so many people are engaging in the nuclear power plants industry. So to keep the employment of the people working in that area, yeah, some people decide not to change the policy. However, we have a lot of the capacity to use the new energy from the natural resource like a solar power plants and geothermal thermal, energy. So we need to change the direction to follow the international policy and tendency. Yeah, that is my thought. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Professor
Yeah.
Miwako.
You go ahead. You go ahead, Ina.
Okay. This question is for Professor Lucero and Father Redillas. Also coming from Professor Greg Tongonan. What practices did the Caleruega team develop for conserving their water resources? Do the workers have access to clean water and enough water for their gardens?
Okay, so there are two questions there. Whether our workers have access to clean water. Water is a challenge in that hilly area. However, there are areas there wherein the tibig that I was telling you, it's a tree that when you have an abundance of it, it is an indicator that the water table is very healthy. And Saray helped me on the science of this, but that's our understanding there, that if the tibig is flourishing, your water table is safe. Second, whether our workers have access, yes, they do have access, and even in the community, because the the line of the water table extends even outside of our property. So, and also when it comes to recycling of water, unfortunately, we still have to go there. But we have already started uh, the conversations around what they call this now, naturally filtering the waters from used by the visitors and used by our retreatants, no, to filter it and then to plow it back, to bring it back to for not only for watering the plant but even to other water usage. So thank you very much for reminding us to do that with your question.
Yes, to add to what
Ina?
Father.
Yes,
Hello,
Doc Emma?
Can you ask Greg whether he wants to come in? He's there in
Okay.
California.
Yeah, I'll send him a message. The question was from Facebook.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
Yes, Professor Ray.
Yes, to add to what Father Stephen has just said, this hawili, Latin name is Ficus hawili. It is an indicator plant, an indicator species that there are plenty of water underneath the ground. So there is also a strip of natural forest in Caleruega, which is being managed now by the retreat center to preserve it, to not to touch it, because of not only for conservation purposes, but it is a critical watershed. As you may have seen from the first slide, it is an upland area. Actually, we are just on top and very near a very active volcano, Taal volcano. So it's a very, very critical area in terms of slope, in terms of the type of soil. And water conservation, one way is to protect the forest, because too much or a lot of water is being stored in trees. And the stomates also of these plants release water in the atmosphere for more effective water cycling. And for the workers, yes, they have access to water resources. Thank you, Ina. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you
N.
very much, Professor Lucero. For Professor Miwako Hosoda, question from our Facebook page again. Is the power grid in Odawara City completely renewable and
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you. Maybe the internet is unstable.
sorry about that. Is the power grid in Odawara City completely renewable and localized?
Not completely. A part of the energy came from the renewable energy. So that is still the challenge. Thank you very much for the good question.
Thank you. Of land degradation, environmental degradation caused by technological development. For instance, monoculture. Synthetic fertilizer is one of the examples for it. To tackle such conditions, the the student totally agrees that utilizing indigenous traditional knowledge for core experiences. However, we see that cultures do not usually value the indigenous or traditional knowledge. How do you recommend that we enhance the indigenous and traditional knowledge in society? Anyone from the panelists would like to begin?
Let me have the first set of answers. First, there should be a passion to learn, and there should be, second, there should be a group of leaders, just like what Jesus made. There should be a core group who would lead the bigger group to go along this line. And thirdly, I think the technologies are enough. There are innovations, some of which are even unpublished, but these are in the minds of the farmers, in the minds of the local communities of the indigenous people. I think they should be promoted and demonstrated. In the Philippines, it's easy to convince farmers because farmers' motto is to see is to believe. If I see that it works, then it will also work in my farm. So I think this passion of sharing and care for the environment, and I think this later could be extended to nature. But it's hard to work in the communities because the needs may be, the defined issues may not be environmental. It could be simply water and food. And we have to start with that. And so if the program is meant to have an output for 2 years, I think it would be very, very hard. So there should also be a thorough understanding that the social transformation would take a long time. It would need a lot of time for social preparation. You need to have dedicated community organizers on the ground. Thank you, Ina.
Ina, let me take a second stab on that question. And again, thank you for that question. Let me answer that with this research that it's not yet taken off, but we're thinking along that we can immerse ourselves and do research on bee and honeybee production in one of the islands. There is a belief among bee harvesters that in the island, the bee colonies wouldn't usually show themselves to the bee gatherer or hunters. But once they show the colony, the hive, no, the understanding is that it is there for the taking, and you have to get everything. And along the way, it destroys even the home or the hive. No, now we were thinking that where is that coming from? Where is that cultural practice coming from? That belief system coming from? And then also on the other hand, we have this knowledge of the possibility of sustaining that the harvesting of honey and other byproducts, no, without destroying the home of the bee. No, We are faced with that, and we are still on the data gathering process, no? But definitely cultural study and cultural research should come into picture, no? Should be foregrounded here. So immersion is one. Again, research, understanding the culture, and then also the context of how that culture developed, no, should be part of the study before presenting any innovation, any way of moving forward. So we are still in that stage. I hope that in another forum we will be able to present that study.
Thank you very much, Father Debs. From Father Jojo.
Yeah, my wish is that, if we do set up what we call this virtual network at the start, is also to not only immerse ourselves, but also to communicate, no? To communicate such wisdom and such spirituality from the indigenous communities. Yeah? Because we need to be their partners, no? So that they do find that in this network of solidarity at the Asian level, they do have partners like us, you see, to communicate their wisdom and their whole spirituality. I feel it's very important to give that voice to them to also speak of their sense of what I call sacred sustainability. For they believe that unless we are connected, no, with the Creator, unless we are connected with the ancestors and with all the plural nature spirits, there's no way we can really sustain life on this planet Earth. No? So there is a perennial ancestral wisdom there that I think they want to communicate through us and with us, to the world at large. So that is not just the scientist who speaks, it's not just the academicians, but we speak together with them. And I believe that they would like their voices to be heard as loudly as possible in this time of ecological crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Jojo. From Prof. Miwako.
Yeah, thank you very much. I totally agree with your idea for the Jojo, for the Teb, and Professor Ray. The air and ocean are connected, and we can learn, the indigenous people across the, the border. As the Professor Emma previously proposed, we like to have a roots network to exchange the knowledge, the wisdom knowledge from the indigenous people, regardless the nationality and ethnicity. So I'm today looking forward to the future collaboration and the exchange of the knowledge and the practice. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all our guest speakers for this very informative session today and the open forum as well. To officially close the session, I'd like to call back our main convener, Dr. Emma Porio, to give us her closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Professor Miwako, Professor Ray, Father Tibbs, and Father Jojo. I really feel inspired and energized. I think, for example, in Father Jojo, every one of you talk about the creation, balance, sustainability. And I was thinking to myself, thank you very much, speakers, for connecting us, for reconnecting us to our commitments to build a common future. So thank you very much. I think maybe I've been organizing webinars, and I think it's because these webinars allow me to learn more about what we're doing now. And also these webinars make us feel good about the generosity that the speakers, the organizers gave us in terms of the work that we are doing here. So thank you very much. I think this seminar that we are organizing on climate and resource management and human development. And we really focus on what Father Ted Redillas said. Practice. It is practice and experience. And I would say, I always tell my students, there is no substitute for experience to make you learn something. So thank you very much. I think this is very wonderful. We are very privileged and proud to say that our webinars have always encouraged us, support, and basically nurtured us and inspired us to do better. So thank you very much. I think the intellectual generosity of our colleagues and what Father Jojo would say, fellow travelers in this earth, that we continue to learn, to create and nurture our common home. As our president, Father President would say, science in the service of society to care for our common home. What I like about this presentations today is really the intersection of science, nurturance, and religion and spirituality, that really in our existence here on this earth, we're all interconnected. Each one has to play their role. And so thank you very much. I would like, before I close, I would like to invite you to our panel of speakers and presentations next week. On November 3, we will have Attorney Gloria Ramos of Oceania, Philippines. I think you know Oceania very much because of the Binham Rice Binham Rice event that we had last year. And she will talk about mainstreaming coastal resources management, and she'll be paired with Maria Teresita Tabada from Visayas State University, who has been doing studies on sand and gravel mining in central Philippines. And she will talk about Build program. What are the implications to community resilience? And then on November 4, we will have the executive director of the Kitanglad Center, a network of NGOs, Esther Lona Canoy, with Bae Inatlawan, you know, her Babaylan partner and spiritual director. They will be talking about their indigenous resource management practices in the Kitanglad mountain range. And then on Thursday, we will have the Mekong panel headed by Conso Richai, and she'll be assisted by Professor Chayan Benaputi of the Chiang Mai Resource Center University, and she will be supported by Kun Paniti on the International Rivers Association. So thank you very much, and I really would say that in closing, let me thank again the CCARPH management team. They have been managing this very well. Without these young people, I'll be a nervous wreck. You know, I do not know how to manage all of these things, you know. So I would like to thank Ina and her team. And also I'd like, you know, we've been organizing webinars since October, starting with Asia Pacific Sociological Association with Professor Miwako as our president. So they have been doing excellently, you know, my team. So also I would like to thank our partner in the Department of Political Science at Ateneo de Manila and the Asian Peacebuilders and the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. And most of all to our supporter, the International Development Research Center. So thank you very much, and we will hope we will see you next time in our next week. Our webinars will run up to November 13. So I would like to thank the audience, and I'd like to thank Greg Tangonan. I know it's very late there in California, but for him to, you know, listen to us, I really appreciate, and also all the other people who are in other parts of the world and are listening to us and very interested in the presentations and are very eager to support us. For example, my my colleague and friend of the formerly of the Sacred Springs with Father Jojo. I would like to thank, Edna Sapantaman Lapas. She has been firm supporter of our coastal cities at risk, and so many people, who have been listening to us. So thank you very much, Professor Miwako, Father Ted Redillas, and Professor Ray and Father Jojo. We will create that solidarity network. We should form together, we should connect. Even though we're locked down, we continue to create, we continue to support this earth. So thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Ina? Yeah.